Hey guys, Ryan here. I'm coming at you with a new series. Since it's going to take me a while to get my Seinfeld series underway, just because I'm just not feeling it yet. I know a lot of you guys have said you like my Seinfeld series, and it's really annoying because it's my favorite show, and I just cannot get the groove on making it a series. But I'm going to. In fact, I almost did that video instead of this one. I'm going to be doing season two, but I'm going to get a little bit more information, behind the scenes kind of information on it. It'll be a good video where I could talk about my love for it, but then I could give some backstory to it too. And so that's what I'm going to do. Um, in this series, this is a new series I'm starting. I'm going to be talking about the Bond films. It's something I've never mentioned here on YouTube, which is really surprising. But because the Bond movies are actually my favorite franchise of all time, even over Batman and stuff. And I've just always loved James Bond movies. And so I'm going to talk about the James Bond movies. And so I've liked them pretty much my whole life. The way I fell in love with them was my oldest brother, or one of my older brothers, asked for the special edition VHS tapes for Christmas, like in the mid '90s, and they never watched them. My brother never watched them. And one day I was just bored, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna try, one of those James Bond movies." I had seen GoldenEye and stuff, and I'd just never seen any of the classics, and I became addicted to them to the point where he just gave them to me pretty much, and I have them all on DVD now, and it's just I've always loved James Bond films, and so that's how I fell in love with James Bond movies. The first one I'm gonna be talking about, of course, is Doctor No, the first James Bond film. And I'm gonna go ahead and say too, put that right there. I'm gonna say too is that I've actually have all the novels as well. Pretty good early editions. They're not first editions, but they're early editions. I think they're like second editions or third editions, and they're pretty old. And my favorite ones out of the books, You Only Live Twice, I actually have two editions in that are special and you can't buy them. But anyways, back to Doctor No. For those of you guys who haven't seen these movies, it's going to include spoilers. So you're warned. Um, you know, 1962, when Doctor No came out, it was 1962, right? Because it's the 50th anniversary this year. I just want to make sure. Yeah, 1962. Sometimes movies are made in 61 or the year before. I wanted to make sure I got the classification right. Doctor No was made in 1962, and it is about a double O agent who works with James Bond, or Her Majesty's Secret Service, and he is killed. And the reason why they find out is because during a routine transmission, it gets cut off, and they were wondering what it was all about, why. And so they sent their best man, James Bond, down to the Caribbean, to Jamaica, to investigate. And we're introduced to James Bond. He's just kind of this kind of a rough womanizer. Smokes cigarettes, drinks, and plays poker. And Sean Connery does a great job. I think he's a great Bond. He kind of has a little bit of humor. In some of his later James Bond films, he has like those comments that kind of have two meanings. I forgot what you call that, but like shocking, positively shocking, and all those kind of things. And he kind of brings a little bit of a humor to the character, but he's really rough, and you don't really realize it. I mean, some people complain about Daniel Craig being too rough, but if you look at the original James Bond, Sean Connery, I'm not counting the other James Bonds there were, that American version from like the 50s, and then Casino Royale, the comedy, but I'm talking about the original James Bond, Sean Connery. He is rough, and he, sleeps around with women just to get information, that kind of thing, and I think we forget about that. But he's sent down to Jamaica to investigate, and he realizes that the reason why he was killed is because he was doing some investigating in an area, on Crab Key, and on this certain doctor. and you later find out that this doctor and Crab Key he's a leader, or one of the leaders in the Spectre organization, which is the main villain organization in James Bond, or at least in the novels and part of the James Bond film series. And so along the lines, we meet, a couple of characters. The memorable one is definitely Honey Rider, who is the James Bond woman in the film, the James Bond, the Bond girl. And she's not the first. A lot of people say she's the first, but at the beginning of the movie, there's the character. What was her name? Sylvia Trench. Is that her name? I forgot her name. I think that was her name. Um, she was the first one. She was the one that kind of showed up in Bond's room at the beginning of the film, and she's like, I hope it's okay I'm here, and she's just wearing his shirt out of the closet. But Honey Rider was the woman who her father was killed on Crab Key because he was doing some snooping, or no, they thought that he was doing some snooping, and she was orphaned, and so she'd always come back just to pick up shells and stuff and sell them for a lot of money. A little bit of backstory to her character, but in my opinion, she's the most beautiful Bond girl. I think she is, she's almost the perfect Bond girl, but she does kind of lack the toughness that some of the later Bond girls have. The woman will stand up for herself and almost be just as rough as the man will, even though she tries. But the difference between her and some of the other Bond girls are just, they can just be vicious and attack all their enemies. And she wanted to, but she couldn't get to that point. She was always kind of leaning on James Bond. But yeah, that's what Doctor No's about. And the title character of Doctor No is, this who's like interfering with all these American missile launches and stuff, or shuttle launches and everything like that, and interfering with the space program, all for criminal purposes. And so, um, you know, James Bond quickly realizes that this is way deeper than it seems. And so Doctor No is just he's a master villain. He's not as good as some of the later villains, but he's still pretty good. He's rough, not rough. What is the word? He's really, I guess you could say he has his own values. He's strict and he stands up for his values. They might not be good values, but they're still his values. And he is gonna disrupt anything he can. And that's one of the reasons why I love the movie. And the set design. Who's the set designer? I think his name was Ken Adams. Let's see. I should have checked before I made the video. But the set designer for most of the James Bond classic movies, he did a brilliant job. He really showed this criminal layer, in each of the films. They're so memorable. And this one is just like, Doctor No's lab in Crab Key. Not a lab, but his like, I guess you could say it is kind of like a lab where all the machines are, all the scientific stuff is going on, and it's just kind of like a headquarters. And it looks really, really, really cool. And just the way it's all set up. It's like the inside of a plant. Yeah, that's the best way to explain it. It's like a plant, and it's like a port, and there's all these, docking spaces and everything like that. And I don't know, it's a pretty cool movie, and I've always loved it. And it wasn't the first one I saw. I mean, I didn't. This was like one of the last James Bond movies out of the classic ones I watched as a kid. I had like almost seen all of them except for this one. So, um, so guys, I hope you enjoyed my opinion of this, and it's definitely one of my favorite James Bond movies just because it's the first one and it just has good characters. And you can definitely tell that Sean Connery and everybody else is getting their feet wet with the role. So, of course, the next one is going to be From Russia with Love. So I hope you guys enjoy this series. Stay tuned, and I will see you next time.